Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop. We're back on with Peter's B175 engine rebuild. We're going to do the primary side and get that all built up. We've got some exciting bits that have come in for the engine, so I shall share some of those with you as well. I think you'll be interested to see that. And yeah, we're just going to really just try and press on a little bit and get some more progress on this engine. Whilst I'm here, I haven't shouted out any of my friends on YouTube for a while. These are the people that inspire me and support me and kind of keep me going, really. We've got Bones over at BSA Bantams in Australia. He's doing some casting at the moment. Very interesting. Making some new parts for BSA Bantams. I won't spoil the surprise. So if you're not already watching those videos, well worth going over and checking out BSA Bantams. We've got AG Engineering. Impressive library is what I would describe it as, of British Pike machining and repair operations. So, you know, a great inspiration to me and a firm friend of mine. Well worth checking out AG channel. That's AG Engineering. We've got Tweedy, Tweed's Garage, with a big moustache. If you haven't seen Mr. Tweed, well worth going over there and checking out his channel. Very entertaining and informative. He's got a Bantam, so, you know, he must be a good egg straight off the bat. But he does vintage car stuff, all kinds of interesting capers that Mr. Tweed gets up to. So go and check him out. My brother, Carl Wilson at Carl Wilson Engineering, he's doing machinery refurbishment. He's building a gas turbine engine, and you get a lot of theoretical stuff if you're interested in, you know, the background and the whys and the wherefores, how things work. He's your man, so well worth a look. We've got Ian at In the Shed over in Norfolk, currently building a Bonneville, basically a box of parts, and he's managed to pluck a bike out of them. You know, he's a talented guy, and he always turns out a lovely machine. So do please check out In the Shed. And of course, we've got Cliff at Cliff's Shed. Recently, or a couple of years ago, had a fire, terrible fire, devastated his workshop. But he has rebuilt, and he's fixing up some of his machinery, and he's getting the place going again. And he's got a Maximat lathe exactly like mine, and it had been on fire. And, you know, it's still good. It will live again. So there you go. Testament to the Maximat lathe. And last but not least, we have the evergreen Dale Swager over in Montana. Dale is your guru when it comes to vintage Japanese two-strokes. And I don't say that lightly. He really is. If you've not checked out Dale's channel, you know, it would be a great place to go and have a look and learn something. So that's not an exhaustive list of the people that inspire me. If you have a look at my subscription list, you'll see a number of channels that I watch regularly. And, you know, they've all got something to teach us. They've all got something to show us. So, you know, well worth going over and having a look. Anyway, enough waffle from me. I'm sure there'll be plenty more throughout the video. But let's get on, do some work. Right, we're back again, and Peter's B175 bottom end is in the engine stand, primary side facing up, so that can mean only one thing. We're going to do the primary side. And we've got some nice new bits, which I'll share with you, starting off with the new primary chain. Nice, good quality primary chain and new split link. So that's good. That will be going in. We've got the new spring cup and circlip for Kickstarter ratchet. That holds the spring down like that, so that your Kickstarter ratchet works. And it holds it all together. And lasts about 5 minutes, because a little sliver of metal inside soon wears away and the whole thing starts floating around. It still works, but yeah, I'm exaggerating slightly. It lasts longer than 5 minutes, but yeah, not the greatest of designs, but we will put it back to standard. We've got engine tab washer kit. So we've got a tab washer for the primary sprocket and one for the final drive sprocket. Keep everything tight and keep it all together. And we've got a new final drive sprocket because the old one was pretty worn. It was pretty bad, really. The nut was loose, so it might have been wandering around a little bit. I think probably the main shaft oil seal had been changed at some time. They'd not tightened the nut right up, but you know, that could have contributed to it. Or it could just have been that they'd run it with no, you know, all weathers with no lubrication on the chain. Anyway, it was pretty knackered, but we've got a new one. That's good news. And we've got a new set of clutch springs, and these are the heavy duty ones. A bit heavier, a bit stronger than the originals, so should last a little bit longer, hopefully. Keep the Bantam clutch slip at bay. Let me grab one of the originals. There's one of the original springs. That still feels pretty good, but when I measured them up, they were all under length. Pretty tired, so time for a change, and went for the heavy duty option because that's what I fit. There are pennies more to buy, and let's be honest, I cast no aspersions here. I speak only for myself. Not exactly a 16-year-old telegram boy anymore. Never was, let's be honest. So, you know, the more robust gentlemen such as myself, the heavy-duty clutch springs make sense. And, you know, if you're ever planning on carrying a passenger, it just gives the clutch a bit of an easier time, really. So we've got those. And here we have cardboard box. And it is a cardboard box full of sparks. They're just jumping around in there as we speak. And I think you're probably all shouting at the screen, show us the box of sparks. And Peter probably is. But no, I'm going to be mean, and I'm going to keep it to myself. So just did that to taunt you a little bit and be a little bit mean and horrible. And you'll have to wait until we do the mag side. But worth waiting for. I think you'll find it's going to be good. So that's pretty much the new parts, apart from something very exciting that I'm going to show you in a minute. But we do need one of these. This is the clutch center bush, and like a fool, I forgot to order it. So I've had to order it, and still waiting for that to come in. That's on me. That's my fault. But through the magic of video, you won't have to wait very long. No doubt it will appear during this video, because if it doesn't, we can't fit the primary side. There's no point doing half a job and having to take it apart again. So we're just waiting for that piece, and now I'm going to show you something really, really exciting. Really. So I've been horrible to you. I'll be nicer to you now, and I'm going to share something with you very exciting that arrived on my doorstep about an hour ago. And that is our freshly rebored cylinder barrel, and what a lovely job. It's absolutely perfect. All of that horrible grot has gone, not a mark on it, not a scratch, not a trace of a corrosion pit, absolutely like brand new. I don't know if you can see that very well in the light. Lovely cross hatch on it. All the ports have been chamfered. You could ride to London and use those ports as your saddle. They're absolutely perfect. So that is great news. Exterior wise, just needs a bit of a clean up and some cylinder black, and that will be as good as new. We need something to fill this great big hole. So the good news continues. We've got our Bantam Super Sport piston, 62.1. That's where we needed to be to get rid of all that hideousness. And let me just get it out of the box. There we go. Check out that work of art. And where did it come from? It's from Rex Cornt Racing. And if you've never heard of Rex Cornt, you should have done. Look him up. Rex was probably the big name in Bantam racing over the past few decades, and talented racer, tuner, engineer, businessman. He created Rex Cornt Racing so that he could share the development and innovations that he'd made with BSA Bantams with the rest of us. We could all have a slice of the action. And I speak about him in the past tense, sadly, because he did pass away earlier this year. But not before he passed on all of his skills and his innovation onto his daughter Michelle, who is now taking that business forward. So Rex Corn Racing, very much a going concern, and Bantam wizardry for many more decades to come. I shouldn't wonder. And this is one of Rex's designs, the Super Sport piston, the semi-domed design. So it's applicable to a number of Bantam engines across the range. It retains the two-ring design. So, we're sticking to the original brief of the B175. But there are single-ring pistons available as well for racing. I decided to go with the two-ring version for longevity and, like I said, just to stick to the original B175 brief. But, yeah, as you know, if I recommend something or I endorse something, I've paid for it, and I'm more than happy to recommend Rex Corn Racing to you. I get a lot of parts from them, and I get very good service. So very good service should always be rewarded, in my opinion. So I'm more than happy to endorse Michelle and her colleagues at Rex Corn Racing. So looking forward to getting all this together, and I think it's going to be a little flyer with that piston in, and our new fresh bore. So from garden pond to very much a going concern with this engine. So before we can get on with the primary side, I'm just waiting for a clutch sensor bush to come in because I completely forgot to order it. That's on me. That's my own stupid fault. Oops, dropping it. Just waiting for this to come in. And I can't remember if I mentioned it already, actually. I might have mentioned it earlier. But there you go. I forgot to order it, and now I've forgotten if I've even mentioned it. So take from that what you will. But by the magic of video, it will appear within seconds, and we'll get on with building the primary side. Here we go, look. I told you it wouldn't take long. We've got the new bush for the clutch center. So that's good news. It's been a couple of days, but I haven't been idle. Re-blacked up the cylinder barrel. That looks lovely. So that's another job done. Right. I think we're going to do tonight, because it is, well, the evening, we're going to assemble the clutch ratchet mechanism. So we need some bits for that. We need a spring, need the ratchet wheel, and we need the new cup and circlip. I think I can just do this by hand. I don't think I need any tools for it, other than to, oh, there's the blade, just dropped out of the Stanley knife. Let's just put that back together. There we go. That's more like it. Right, okay. So there's our new spring cup. As you can see, not a great deal of meat on them. It's that thin edge there, really. It's not focusing very well, is it? But hopefully you get the idea. New circlip. And then on with the spring, on with the cup. Push it all the way down. Circlip on. Make sure it's all the way in the groove. I'll push with a screwdriver. That's it. So now we've got our self-contained ratchet unit. And that's that bit done. Okay, let's crack on with the primary. I put some in earlier, but I'm going to put a little bit more in. Just some green goop on the bearing, assembly lube, and then we need a little thrust. And there's two thrust washers that go in the primary side. You've got this one, which backs up the center bush on the clutch, and then you've got this one, which backs up the O-ring on the primary sprocket. And you can't really get them mixed up because they're quite different. And then obviously you've got the thrust bearing as well in the center of the clutch, but that's, you know, 3 pieces of the bearing. So these are the 2 thrust washers. So put the clutch one down for now, we don't need it just yet. And we'll put the primary O-ring washer on. And then I've given the O-ring a bit of a lube with some clean engine oil. Then that goes on. Woodruff key next. Come on, fingers. You know you can do it. There we go. Is he going to stay in there? He is. Good. And then the sprocket. You can see the side that that faces down, because that's the side where the O-ring goes. So we can drop that over the Woodruff key. There we go. And then on the earlier bikes, you'd have tab washer here, and we actually have some new tab washers, but we don't need them because you have a Simmons nylock, as they're sometimes called. Just going to put a little bit of oil on that thread. There's my oil can. There it is. Oop. Too much. Can't put too much oil on it, as my granddad used to say. Right. Yep, Simmons nut goes on. And then grab the torque wrench, socket, and special tool, and okay, let's torque it down. This is the special tool that holds the sprocket, stops it from turning. As long as my fingers will play the game and hold it. There we go. Get that into position. Try and hold it level. Torque wrench is set at 55 foot-pounds. There we go. Job's a good one. Okay. You don't have to go bananas. 50 to 55 is more than adequate. I set it at 55 and we won't have any problems with that. So let's move on. Right, the next part that we need to fit is the Kickstarter mechanism. Because if we get the clutch in without this bit, it's all gone wrong. So the first piece is the disc. Goes in first, stops the Kickstarter spring from munching its way through the casing. And have a look at how the spring goes in. So I'm holding the quadrant towards the floor, and the spring is in the lower slot. So you can see the slot up there, there's a slot down there, quadrant is pointing at the floor, spring is in the lower slot. So, first thing to do, get it over the gear change shaft, and then with the quadrant sort of facing towards the bottom of the engine, engage the eye end of the spring into the little slot here. Let me take it off to show you. Little slot there, little sort of keyway, if you like, in the casing. the quadrant towards the bottom of the engine, engage in the slot, and then you need to try and hold that down, start to get some tension on the spring, and then you're going to wind it anti-clock. You just got to lift it over that casting there, but make sure that this casting here, make sure that the eye end doesn't come out and twang you. That'd be a bad day out, wouldn't it? Keep going around. You can do it by hand, and then drop it down. And now it's hard up against this stop here. Hoping that you can see that in this camera angle. Possibly not. Let me just tilt you forward ever so slightly. Dodgy camera work. As you know, I'm famous for it. There we go. That's a good view. Here. Hard up against this stop here. Let me put you back down. There we go. You're back to where you were. So, now, when we turn the Kickstarter in the direction that the pedal will turn it, it will spin the engine over. As you can see, the quadrant comes round. It's going to engage with the sprocket, or the pinion rather, on the back of the clutch. It's going to turn the engine over, and then it's going to return to the start position. So, we can put the clutch together. So we need a little bit of oil on there again. Bit of green gloop in the bearing. Now this is where your thrust washer comes in, the one that I spoke about earlier. This is the clutch centre bush thrust washer. That goes on first. Then the bush goes on. And then the clutch drum, or basket if you prefer, goes on. Make sure that your circlip is properly down and your spring cup is fully engaged with it. Ratchet's operating. That's nice. Okay, now, if we turn this, if I come around the other side, it might be easier. Don't know if I can do it actually because the clutch is in the way, but let's give it a go. Ah, better idea. Save my hands. There you go. That's how that works. Okay. That's on there nicely. A little bit of oil again. Then thrust washer, which is 3 pieces. It's been sitting here in the tray for a couple of days, so I'm going to give it a wipe down. Just make sure there's no dust or debris. So, we've got thrust race, the needle roller race itself, put some little bits of oil on that, and then we've got the upper thrust race. And then after that, we've got the clutch center, or hub, if you prefer. You're going to make sure that goes all the way down. Engages. See a little spigot there, that has to engage in the center between the thrust bearing. There we go. That's it down. So now you can see clutch drum is free to turn, and the clutch hub or clutch center is free to turn the main shaft. And so obviously if we link the two together with the magic of friction plates and plane plates, when the chain's connected, we can connect the motion of the engine to the motion of the main shaft. And I know that most of you already know all this, but you know, you never know. There might be somebody watching that's never done this. So we'll just explain as we go along. Another Simmons nut. Well, it's not actually a Simmons nut this time. Now, I don't know what you call this in your industry, but in my world, that's called an aerotight nut. But it's a locking nut, it's a self-locking nut anyway. So let's get that on there. Again, on the earlier models, you have a star washer under here. But because we've got a self-locking nut, we don't need it. That goes down. And then we'll set the torque wrench up. And we'll torque this. And this is where the other side of the special tool comes in. That side for the sprocket, this side for the clutch. You just got to fiddle with it a little bit to get the little splines to line up. And then eventually it drops in. And you can hold the clutch center whilst you tighten it up. And it's a 3/8 Whitworth on that one. And the other one on the sprocket with a 7/16 Whitworth. I think I forgot to tell you that. So grab the torque wrench, set it up for the clutch center, and then we'll... Okay, let's torque up the clutch center nut. 3/8 Whitworth. And we're going to 40 foot-pounds. You can see I've got special tool holding the clutch center. Kickstarter shaft is as good a place as any to rest it. We're not putting that much force in that it's going to cause any issues there. Get my hand out of the way, you might be able to see. Oops. Stay there, you. That should do it. There we go. And check that everything spins freely and independently, because that's if it doesn't, obviously you've got an issue. You've got a bind up with your thrust bearing, but that's the key to your clutch working properly, is that the main shaft with the splined hub and the outer drum spin freely and independently of each other. And if that's the case, then you are onto a winner. I can't remember if I mentioned, but all the edges of the clutch drum here, the slots where the plates actually act, sometimes you get notches in these where just basically from the torque reaction of the clutch, the tangs on the driving plates will dig into the side of the slots, and it can cause clutch drag. So if you get that, you have that problem, you can just dress these up with a file mostly. If they're really, really bad, and you've got a milling machine, you can just tidy them up on the milling machine. But generally speaking, just to rub over with the file, just to make these nice and smooth, and just deburr all the edges, take any sharp edges off, and gives you a better clutch action. Because if the driven plates can't slide in these slots, then you're going to get clutch drag. So that's another thing to look for. Right, let's get the clutch together. I'll get everything that we need. I've got the plates soaking in some oil, and we'll get everything together and stick the clutch together. Ooh, I'll change the camera battery as well, because that's showing red. So that's a stitch. Okay, we've got 100% battery, so that's good. Good news. It should last us a little while, and we'll start building the clutch. And the first thing I'm going to do, before I forget, is just to put a little bit of oil on the mushroom, the push rod, and drop that in, because it's very embarrassing when you forget to put that in and you've completely built the clutch. Ask me how I know. Right, so we'll start off with a friction plate, and I'm just going to fish it out of the oily bag, which is leaked everywhere, obviously. We'll drop a friction plate in to start us off, and then we just alternate between a friction plate and a driving plate. driven plate. You can actually get it in there. There we go. And you know, we were talking a couple of videos back about the reasons why this bike might have come off the road, and I was going through everything. I couldn't find anything really that would have put the bike off the road. And then when I was inspecting the clutch plates to clean everything up, I found that one of the clutch plates, I felt a bit sticky, I don't know why, let's just pull that out again. One of the clutch plates had no friction material at all on one side. It had completely stripped off. It's alright. So there you go. Completely stripped off one side of the friction plate. So that could have been a reason. That could have been a reason why it came off the road. And also, you remember when we first took this thing apart. If you don't remember, maybe go back and watch the first video on Peter's B175. On the first video, we discovered that there was a condenser screwed to the outside of the engine casing, as though someone had had problems with it. I thought possibly they'd broken down, usually in the pouring rain, because that's what happens, isn't it? And they'd bodged a condenser on the outside and wired it in via the points cover. So, yeah, that's another possible reason. Dodgy electrics, because they weren't great, were they? In all fairness, the electrics on these things, they didn't last very long. I can remember in the 1970s, my granddad's Bantam, the major problem that he had, and this would have been an early D7, probably a very late 1950s, early 1960s D7, and yeah, he couldn't get the electrics to work. The problems with the Y-pack magneto on it, and as was often the case. But of course, nowadays you can get, spares a go-go for these things. Any number of people producing spares, and you've got options. But back then in the 1970s, I imagine that BSA having recently closed, the spares were drying up. Stuff on the shelves was getting scarce, and you were struggling to get bits and pieces for it. So, yeah, I suspect that this bike suffered with its electrics, and that clutch, that dodgy clutch, was probably another reason why it came off the road. Right, I'm just going to clean myself up, because as Michael over at Britannia would say, I am clarted, and that's a Yorkshire phrase. And yeah, I was up there this weekend visiting one of my relatives, and yeah, that just came to mind. But that's what Michael says. So anyway, I'm going to go get myself cleaned up from all this oil, and we'll come back, put the springs in, we'll put the top cover in, and we'll use the new spring compressor to put the circlip in. Okay, I've got the springs. These are the new springs, the much talked about heavy duty springs, and the spring caps roughly into position. You might be one of these people that can put them in there and then kind of drop it in, but I'm not. So I put them roughly where they need to be. If you're lucky, there's a witness mark as to where it used to be, and that kind of gives you a bit of a guide. And then I just kind of jiggery-pokery this thing, the spring cover, over the top of them. With a bit of luck and a fair wind, it goes on. And now we can compress the plate down, compress the springs, and we can get the circlip in. And I think I've said this before on my videos regarding Bantam clutches. This is the area where you press to compress the springs. This raised circle here on the spring cover. You get sometimes you take them apart, you see a great big dent in the middle of the pressure plate here. Pressing on that can't possibly compress the springs that are sitting on top of that, but you know, people do it. There you go. But yeah, you do if you get one that's been pressed on there, been damaged on there, check these spot welds, because the doubler plate that's on the inside that's spot welded on, if they've been rough enough, it can actually break the spot welds, and you end up with the doubler plate falling out. So something to think about. Now then, this new spring compressor is not as easy to use as my home brewed one, I have to say. See if I can get it in. Well, might go back to my home brewed one, because this doesn't appear to be quite wide enough to span the sprocket. Either that or I'm being a complete biff. Anything's possible. Let me switch you off, have a look at this thing and see what's going on. Well, we're there now, but I had to tease the legs out slightly to get them around the sprocket, so there we go. I hope Ian from In the Shed is watching, because we like to have a collective rant about modern built special tooling for British motorcycles. And if you're watching, Ian, I'm not immune either. So there you go. It's just ease the pressure up a bit, move this over. There we go. Tell you what, I'll faff around with this and then I'll bring you back. I definitely think that it was easier using my home brewed version. Right, we've gone back to my homebrew because, well, there's a word for that other thing, but it's not polite to say it, so we'll keep stum. Right, let's get the circlip fitted. Yes, it could be made much, much better with a little bit of modification, but I don't have time for that right now, and you expect to just pick things up and use them, don't you? That's not on this occasion. As I say, Ian, if you're watching, I'm not immune from it, obviously. It happens to me as well. We buy these special tools, and you end up having to, remanufacture them almost to get them to work. So I shall stick with my homebrew method, I think, for the foreseeable. But I can get around to having a look at that tool and seeing if I can make it any better. Anyway, there's our clutch back together. So we just need to put our top cover on. And the top cover, it wasn't on the early Bantams, but it's designed to stop the fingers, if you like, of the clutch drum from spreading under load. The original ones just had the circlip, and they would spread under load. So they came up with this sheet metal cover that just ties everything together. If you have problems getting this to fit, chances are what's happened is your circlip is too low. It's dropped out of the groove and it's actually lower than it should be, and it's spreading fingers apart. If the circlip is fully in the groove, the fingers will click into place and find their natural position. If you find that you're having to sort of force this thing on, then you've probably got a problem with the position of your circlip. So, top tip. Guess how I know this? You guessed it. Yeah, I've done it. Right, okay. Get the 3 little screws in with their respective serrated washers, and that is the clutch complete. And we fitted the mushroom push rod. this time. So that's all good. You know what? Come on, Dean. Get all the screws started before we tighten them down. Good engineering practice. I decided not to follow. But anyway, we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, good show. Okay, I need to have a bit of a tidy up of the bench, and then we'll fit the primary chain. But we're not going to fit the cover just yet because I want access to the end of the crankshaft for when we fit the ignition system. And we fit the rotor to the other end of the crankshaft because it fits on with a collet system, and we'll need to get that nipped up without the crank spinning. So get access to this end, we can do that. We can hold it with the barrel and piston fitted. We can still hold the crank. You get what I'm saying. I'm waffling. Right, let me tidy up. We'll get the primary chain. Okay, that's our chain fitted. Minimum slack on it. Lovely and new. And you'll notice, hopefully you can see, there's our split link. And because we're on the bottom rung, train travels around that way, as the engine travels in that direction, or the primary drive travels in that direction. And so the closed end of the spring clip, the spring link, goes this end. So the closed end is facing the direction of travel. But I'm sure most of you already knew that, but just in case any of you have never done this before. So that's our primary built up. As I say, I'm not going to fit the cover yet. It all feels very nice, very smooth. Very happy with the way this engine's going back together so far. I took some wood so that I don't jinx myself, but yeah, it's all looking reasonably good so far. So I think that's going to be it for this video. I was thinking about cracking on with the top end, but I just think that the video will drag on and just get a bit too long, particularly with the way I waffle on about everything. So we'll leave it there, and on the next one we will do the piston ring gaps. We'll get the top end fitted, and then we'll swivel it around and start having a look at the ignition and timing. And you know, after that we're pretty much there, really, aren't we? So thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. Thanks to everyone that has subscribed. As ever, those of you who've been with me for a while, thank you very much for sticking with me and for all of your support. And those of you who've come along more recently, I do appreciate you signing up, and I hope that you'll stick around for more, you know, more videos and more Bantam bits and pieces and whatever else comes our way. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Us small YouTube guys, you know, it's very important to us to get that support, and it really does help out. And it gives you a bit of morale, really, for making the next video when you think that you've got an audience to make it for. So yeah, please do hit the button, ring the bell, and leave a comment. Thumbs up if you liked what you saw. Until the next one, mind how you go, and I shall see you soon. Bye for now.